would like to wish you a very happy feast of the Ascension. Today, our first reading comes from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 1, verses 1 to 11. The second reading is from Paul's letter to the Hebrews, chapter 9, verses 24 to 28, and then 10, 19 to 23. Our Gospel comes from Luke, chapter 24, verses 46 to 53. This Gospel reminds me of my childhood. My grandmother used to read the Gospels to us. And this was one of the stories that fascinated me as a child. There was magic to it because Jesus went up into heaven and seemingly the clouds opened and received him. Wow! The disciples, however, didn't see it as magic. They experienced the ascension as a call to return to life, regular life, and to give witness to all that they had seen and had experienced. And Luke tells us that the disciples returned to Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem, as you know, is the place where they experienced the worst of pain and betrayal and their own weakness of walking out on Christ in his time of need, well, except in John, of course. But Luke tells us they return to Jerusalem, not just with joy, but with great joy, The challenge of this feast for each of us is to live the joy of the gospel, the joy of our relationship in our everyday life and our everyday circumstances. As it were, to open up heaven to others and to ourselves. Provided we have the courage to return to our home, to return to our Jerusalem, in ourselves, in our families, in our workplaces, at school, and in our communities. When we carry the joy of the gospel, the joy of knowing God in our hearts, we have a very different perspective. The situations and persons that once bothered us, where we had this temptation to do them back, it now becomes for us an occasion of not what can I do to them, but what can I do for them? How can I try to understand possibly the pain that's leading them to treat me this way? You know, when we are afraid or fearful or lonely or angry, our behaviors become self-preservation, self-preserving. And we too become defensive. But with joy in our hearts, we have the freedom to turn the most negative, challenging situation to positive alternatives. The Feast of the Ascension is such a feast. It gives us the confidence that he who has left us is to return. And he has not left us orphans. He has left us with his grace. And that grace, part of it is joy. That energy energy that enlivens us to embrace and engage life. That energy that awakens all of our senses to the gifts of creation, the gifts of each other. With joy in our hearts, seeing a sunrise is an occasion of prayer. The smile of a child, an occasion of thanksgiving. The generosity of a young person to an elderly, an occasion of great grace. The beggar, the poor person who stretches out his or her hand to us, an occasion of mercy and generosity, of charity. So when Luke tells us that the disciples continuously went to the temple to pray, that too will happen. That continuousness of prayer will happen in our lives with great joy in our hearts. I have never met anyone who is grateful and not joyful, and who is joyful and not grateful. To me, this is continuous prayer. So, as we become aware of the joy that the life of the gospel that we're trying to live and the relationship we have with God bring to us, let us be very grateful for the minutest, the smallest of things. For Paul reminds us very clearly, we have nothing that we can boast about that we have given to ourselves. As we prepare for the Feast of Pentecost this week, let us pray. Let us pray that the grace of the Ascension, the challenge to bring heaven to earth, will open up our eyes to the goodness of God and allow us to anticipate the Spirit that is going to come to us. May our hearts be open to be filled with the gifts of the Holy Spirit this week. Amen. I really thank you, and I wish you the best of weeks. May you find joy, great joy in your heart.